Happy Sunday, co-creators, and welcome to another edition of Teena Sessions, 365 inspirational quotes with me, your life coach, Teena Jones. How is everyone doing on day 50? Can you believe it? Day 50. Thank you so much for sticking with me on this journey. And whether you're new or you're one of my longtime viewers, I appreciate, adore each and every one of you. And if you're ready to kick off today's show with a life quote, it is, God never takes anything from us without giving us something greater in return. I truly believe that with all my heart. We're going to talk about when bad things happen, how to see the good in it. Many of us have lived long enough to experience death of a loved one, divorce, even some of us, betrayal of some kind from a friend or significant other, financial disaster, something that was unexpected, maybe even an illness that we may have had or someone that we love may have been diagnosed with. And when things like that happen, we automatically begin to question why it's happening. On today's Teena session, I want to give you 3 different ideas to consider whenever life kind of pull the rug from up under us, And that way, if you shift your perception, and you begin to shift your perception, you begin to see the miracle that's in the thing that appears to be bad. So one of the key things that I wanted to talk about first is that even though we feel awful, even though the initial emotion is one of shock and disappointment, oftentimes we try to heal that and fight and resist and bring back who we used to be before this incident happened. But the thing about it is that we're not supposed to do that. Whenever something shatters our belief about another person or about who we are, that part of us is gone. It's not for us to try to resurrect the old us, but to try to heal and to become the person that God is trying to make us to be out of this situation. So, for instance, when someone dies all of a sudden, a part of us dies with them. One of my good friends, her father recently passed away, and she was with me when my dad died 24 years ago. We were so young when he passed away. And now, 24 years later, she's experiencing the death of her father. And, she was saying how she felt a hole, like something was missing. And I reminded her, I said, there's a part of you that died with him. And she said, I never thought about it that way. I said, yeah, I'm not the same person. A part of my innocence died when my dad died. So it was actually 20 years ago, almost 21 years ago when he died, because I was 24 years old when he passed away. And so I remember being innocent, just like death hadn't touched me yet. I was still young and full of life and full of vitality and, death exists, but it hadn't existed for me. No close relative had died. So when he passed away, there was a part of me that died with him, my innocence. It was like I had to grow up, and that's what I related to her. And so oftentimes, many of you may have experienced that same thing, where you're trying to be that old person again, but don't do that. Let that person, that part of you, part of you go, because you can never get it back again. Once life has touched you in that way, from some shattered dream or idea of who you thought you were, you'll never get that person back again. But the good news is that you can resurrect a brand new person. You can give birth to a higher, person that's been lying dormant inside of you. You start being compassionate, where maybe you weren't compassionate before. You start becoming more understanding, less judgmental. All these things come out of some type of struggle, some type of shattered dream, some type of idea that has just taken the breath away from you. Illness is another thing that does it for a lot of people. If they get a terminally ill disease or they're fighting for their lives, once they overcome that disease, they're not the same, you know? And it's not supposed to be bitter. You're supposed to be better. I like, there was a old saying that goes, when life hands you these types of ordeals and obstacles, it either makes you better or make you bitter. And I like to think that if you start believing and knowing that this too is good, despite the way it appears, if you begin to shift your perception and start seeing the blessing in it, then God will show it to you. And then you can become better and not bitter. There's no need in becoming bitter because life is going to be life, you know. None of us wake up in the morning thinking, okay, something uncomfortable is going to happen today. None of us wake up thinking, I look forward to something uncomfortable happening today. But it happens. We all have lived long enough to know that it does happen. And so with that in mind, always go into it with the mindset that this too is good, despite the appearances. This too is good. And then go within and say, God, what is it that you want me? What is it that I should learn about myself? What is it that's trying to be born? Oftentimes, if you're going through divorce, I've gone through a divorce, and a part of you die or it's separated from you. It dies too. You're no longer, the person you were when you were married. You now become single. And I remember when I first time I got a divorce, I didn't know how to be single. I'd been married since I was 20 and I got divorced at 34. That's 14 years with one person. And at 34, I'm like, it felt funny. I've always had a husband. And then all of a sudden, I don't have one. So that took an adjustment period. But something amazing arose out of that. I learned not to be attached to people because people shift, they change, they grow. Has nothing to do with you. It's not something personal, And so when you learn that you can love without limits and you can love without being attached, there's freedom in that. That other person can be free to be themselves and you can be free to be yourself. And you now know that, man, I can survive a divorce. It didn't kill me, and that something is new is born out of something like that. Because oftentimes we stay in bad relationships because we fear that it's going to be awful. It's the unknown. So we don't know, but we know this thing is calling us to separate or to divorce. But we don't listen to that inner calling because we're afraid of the unknown. What's going to happen? I need the finances. I need that income. I may not find anybody else. I'm not the same size I was 20 years ago. I don't look as good. Whatever it is that you're telling yourself, you know better. Because there's something inside of you that's trying to be born, but you're holding on to the old thing, and that's keeping you trapped. And so when I finally made the decision to move forward, something independent came out of me, and I'm so happy that I did it. Had that divorce not happened, I wouldn't have never known this part of me, and it feels great. And so I always use that example and that life experience to help me with things I'm going through now and things in the future, and I want you to look over your life and things you've overcome, and know that you're supposed to be better, never bitter. And always search for the good, no matter how bad it looks. Oftentimes, illnesses and disease brings family members close together. Unfortunately, it happens that way. When you find out your loved one is ill, any disagreements, any issues you had with them, it falls by the wayside. It disappears, and you just want to be there for them. That is compassion and that is love at the highest level. And that is a beautiful thing to be there for someone and to help them go through this obstacle and to pray for them and to love them through this disease or this illness, you see. And so there are so many beautiful things. There's a saying of there's find beauty in the ashes. And so that's what I'm encouraging each and every one of you to do in your own life. Instead of responding from that knee-jerk fear-based reaction, come from a place of love. Come from a place of understanding. Come from a place of this too is good. I may not fully understand the goodness right now, but that's okay. You will in due time. If you begin to have and set that intention in the beginning, you will see the good in the most darkest things that may happen in your life. All right. Well, it's almost time for the guided meditation. I hope you guys enjoyed today's Teena session. I enjoyed actually giving it to you today because, each time that I do these sessions, I'm like an aerobic instructor. An aerobic instructor has a class, but she's working herself out too, So I'm working myself out too. And so I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in today. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me at naturalborncoach@hotmail.com. Today's affirmation is God is on my side. No matter what it looks like, God is on your side. All right? All right, let's get ready for the guided meditation. Do what you have to do to get yourself prepared. And I'm going to go ahead and ask for you to close your eyes and take a nice deep breath all the way in. And exhale, release, and let go. Again, take a nice deep breath all the way in. Exhale, release, and let go. It feels so good to know that even the most scariest times can happen in my life. I know that God is on my side. I can live at peace knowing that I am well taken care of, and everything that happens to me is happening for my good. I'm always in the right place at the right time, and life is unfolding in such a beautiful way for me. I rest and relax in the knowledge that life is for me, and good things are always happening for me. I live in a state of peace. I live in a state of allowing. I live in a state of joy. And so it is. Thank you all for tuning in to another edition of Teena Sessions. Have a great evening. I love you all.